our civic groups, our community town halls like this, the community board, and ultimately with city council approval, if we can approve them. What I would say to you is that, number one, what we're going to try and do, if in fact we as a community want to move forward, is make sure that those apartments are truly affordable, that there's a wide range of affordability, that everyone can actually have access to those apartments, because what we've seen in the past is sometimes there are affordable units, but folks in Queensbridge, Ravenswood, Astoria houses, don't get access to those apartments, right? And then making sure that the builders, the developers, are actually building a wide range of apartments from studios to 3 bedrooms, because there are seniors in our community who may want a smaller apartment, and then there are younger families with kids who may want larger apartments. We have the ability in this process to make sure that we're getting the affordability that we desire and the apartments that we need.
Right.
Okay, the second question is, how will you protect small businesses in our neighborhoods that are facing harassment or rising rents? What can be done to pass the Small Business Jobs Survival Act?
Thank you.
Well,
Well, I know who asked this question. So let me just say this. Small businesses, whether the bodegas or restaurants, are really the backbone of our community. We support them. I would agree, just as we have rent regulation, rent control for dwellings, our homes, we should also have a form of that for small businesses. Because the truth is, we've seen it time and time again, that hardworking people invest their life savings in a small business. They suddenly have a very successful small business, and then the landlord jacks up the rent, so much so that they can't continue to stay in that place. They also like to rent out to Dwayne Reed and CVS and folks who can pay top dollar. But it's really the local small business, mom and pop stores that are the heart and soul of the community. So there is a Small Business Job Survival Act, which is a piece of legislation in the City Council, which I think would do a lot of good. That bill, which I am a co-sponsor of, has stalled. It is not moving forward, which is not the right way to approach this. What I have said in the past, and I'll reiterate today, is the prime sponsor of that legislation is leaving. She's term limited, and she's leaving at the end of December. There's a new council member. When that legislation becomes freed up, which will happen on January 1, I will seek to become the prime co-sponsor of that legislation, and I can tell you that if I'm the prime co-sponsor of a piece of legislation, I'm going to fight for it, I'm going to try and move it, and we're going to try and pass it, right? That's what I can say to all of you. It has languished, it has serious opponents who don't want it, but I put my name on that piece of legislation despite the fact that I knew who opposed it and why they opposed it, but I support it anyway because it's the right thing to do. So if my name is on it, I'm going to fight for it, just like I fight for Queensbridge every single day.
Thank you. The third question, I said 3, but I have one more, which is really important.
Bonus
Want to take
question.
yes, bonus question. Okay. The third question is, rents in NYCHA are rising for tenants, and there is constant concern that displacement and private development on NYCHA land that will displace certain tenants. Are there any current plans to build on, construct, tear down, privatize, or alter NYCHA properties in Eastern Queens?
All right, everyone understands the question, right? There are a lot of folks who would seek to build on NYCHA land, market rate housing, or maybe even eliminate public housing altogether. I stand here to you, looking at every single person, and I pledge to you that we will never privatize Queensbridge, Ravenswood, Woodside houses, Astoria houses. That is not going to happen. As long as I'm your council member, we're not going to let it happen. Public housing will remain a place where families can afford to live. So, NYCHA does have plans, and they are moving forward with plans to build in some NYCHA developments all over the city of New York. They've already moved forward with some of those plans, right? Taking what they call open land, right? Whether it be the basketball court right behind here or a field in some of the other developments. I know of no plans to do that anywhere in Western Queens. I know of no plans. Shola and the others, the mayor, have never ever come to me and said, what do you think if we built a big building in the middle of Queensbridge? What I can tell you and promise to you is if they ever do, I will say, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Don't come here. So we're going to keep public housing. We're going to keep it affordable, and we're going to fight them with every breath we have. I pledge to you, as long as I'm your council member, as long as I'm your representative, we will make sure they never, ever destroy public housing in Western Queens.
And the last question, are elected officials from City Council responsible for disseminating information to their constituents about rezoning, low-income housing opportunities, and other issues that may impact the community? If so, what are the ways that council members currently send that information out?
Thank you. So we are all responsible for making sure that residents in our communities are aware of changes that are happening and are also invited to town hall meetings and other meetings where they can voice their opinions. So let me just say, obviously that is first and foremost the people that I'm lucky enough to represent in the New York City Council. So those who live in my district certainly get my newsletters. I hope you get my newsletters. And other communications from my office. If you don't live in my district, unfortunately, Ms. Sylvia Way, then there are other ways that we can communicate, right? Other ways that I want to reach you. So what I would say to you is, if any of these plans move forward, if there are community meetings, we will do everything in our power to make sure that people know of the opportunities to publicly engage. Because I want all of you to be publicly engaged, whether I represent you currently in the City Council or I do not. When we go through any land use review process, if we do, all of you need a seat at the table, right? Every single person needs a seat at the table. So we can and will engage through social media, but I realize that not everyone is on Instagram as much as I am, right? Not all of you have Twitter accounts. Not everyone's even that active on Facebook, although I have to say my mother, who's 78, is very active on Facebook. But we certainly email out, we certainly mail, we certainly flyer, we certainly use the newsletter, but also the agencies themselves also have an obligation to keep everyone informed. So if the mayor wants to push forward any one of these plans, the mayor's office should actually be engaged in making sure that everyone in this room is empowered and knowledgeable about those events. If the Department of City Planning or the Economic Development Corporation, whoever needs to make sure that people are engaged. So let me stress again, because I think this is my last question. All of those projects, whether it's a rezoning, whether it's Sunnyside Yards, whether it's the BQX, whether it's 44th Drive, they go on and on. There's a lot of them. And I get that it's a lot for one community to handle, right? It's a lot for all of us to process. None of them have certified yet. So right now they're all just ideas. People are talking, right? People are talking, and ultimately they'll have to come to us. Us is you and me. Us is you and me, right? We are in this together. I work for you. I work for every single person in this room. You literally pay my salary, literally, and I want to thank you for that. And look, if God is good and I'm able to serve for another 4 years, this little thing called an election in 3 weeks. But if God is good and I can continue to serve for you, I will let you know that we will do this together, right? I will listen, I will hear, I will see, and we will do this together. That is my promise to you. And a lot of you know me. Not everyone here does, but a lot of you know who I am. A lot of you know what I stand for. A lot of you know where I come from. And I've said that in this room, this very room, many, many times, right? Sometimes with my mother, sometimes not. But for those of you who don't know the story, that woman right there is my mother. And she worked in the Pathmark on Northern Boulevard. right? She was a cashier at Pathmark. Now it's not Pathmark anymore. Many of you know it's changed. Yes, Food Bazaar or whatever it's called, right?
Food Bazaar.
And my stepfather, my parents divorced when I was 7, but my stepfather was a janitor at junior high school 10, IS 10, right? I